people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
De la noche, Stephanie Piñeiro.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would seem that former unified light flyweight champion Kim Clavel of Canada will be returning to action on the 27th of this month at the Casino de Montreal against former champion of Mexico, Anabel Ortiz, in what is a minimum weight contest. It would seem that Kim Clavel has moved down in weight, down from light fly to minimum, where the landscape has rapidly changed. For what are two lesser alphabet titles, the IBF Intercontinental and the WBC International. So it would seem that Kim is going both the IBF and WBC route. If she stays along the IBF route, that will line her up for the winner of Seoul Bombstar versus Seoul Kudos, set to go down on the 22nd of this month for the newly vacated IBF title in Argentina.
Crawford.
If she stays the IBF route. If she goes up the WBC route, that will line her up for Golden Boy Promotions' own Yo Castilla Valle of Costa Rica, who recently became a two-time minimum weight champion. Should Kim Clavel be successful against Anabel Ortiz, sporting a professional record of 20 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 22 professional bouts, Kim will be facing former WBA champion Anabel Ortiz, who was literally just in there with her countrywoman, Sarah Bailey. Anabel lost, sporting a professional record of 34 wins with 7 losses, no draws, 4 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 41 professional bouts. She was recently in there with newly crowned WBA light flyweight champion of Canada, Sarah Bailey, lost a unanimous decision. And that Kim Clavel is now fighting that same Anabel Ortiz. You wonder that she's not doing so in an effort to perhaps challenge Sarah Bailey for her WBA title.
Sarah's only 5-0.
Set to make her very next ring appearance north of the border in Canada in what is a most valuable promotions show that they're doing up there. No, I don't get the sense that Kim Clavel landed on an Anabel Ortiz fight by accident. I feel like she may have had a fight with Sarah Bailey in mind, and if you are going to fight Sarah at some point, it would make sense to do it sooner rather than later, while Sarah still only has a handful of fights, still green.
Kim's down at minimum weight now, though.
She can always move back up on her road back to an alphabet title or alphabet titles. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
There's more than one path, one road to an alphabet title or titles.
And it would seem that Kim is perusing 3 separate roads, the IBF and WBC route at minimum weight, and perhaps a fight with Sarah Bailey at light flyweight. It all depends on what opportunities open up to her this calendar year.
She's on a 3-fight winning streak. She saw action 3 times last year, won 3 times last year.
And I think she's about to win this one, this Anabel Ortiz fight. Anabel just dropped a decision to a fighter with no more than 4 professional fights going in. A fighter who Anabel's vastly more experienced than, with many more fights and many more rounds in the bank, much more experience, but there is such a thing as too much experience that perhaps Father Time has caught up to Anabel. If you lost to a fighter that only has 4 fights in your last fight, it's conceivable you're about to lose to this one.
Kim Clavel on points is the pick for later on this month. Kim's not a big puncher, but she's very fast, light on her feet, agile, good mid-range to inside.
Quick combinations, quick counters. She should win a points decision north of the border, where she will have home field advantage over Anabel
in what is Kim's first fight of this year.
How soon Kim Clavel can fight for an alphabet title really all depends on how soon an opportunity can open up for her. Those divisions, minimum weight and light flyweight, they're open books right now.
The most dominant force anywhere at or around those weights used to be Senicia Estrada up until recently, but now that she's retired, it's basically a free-for-all where anything can happen.
Based on that, Kim Clavel stands a decent enough chance to become a champion again, perhaps a two-division champion if she picks up a belt at minimum weight.
We'll see. Look for the ring return of Kim Clavel north of the border later on this month against Anabel Ortiz, who I envision is going to lose a points decision. Kim is going to outpoint her.
Men's light heavyweight news. David Benavidez feeling triumphant after toppling David Morrell. I'll be the face of boxing soon.
Face of boxing. That all depends on how many pay-per-views you can sell and what the gate receipts say.
Some people have got it in their heads that just the act of being on pay-per-view, that makes you a draw, just being on pay-per-view. But what did it actually sell?
That matters too.
Las Vegas. David Benavidez charged right at the most imposing challenger he could find. And after disposing of David Morrell by way of a unanimous decision this past Saturday at the T-Mobile Arena, those who remain in his path now understand the full reality of what awaits.
What awaits for who?
A destructive puncher and an imposing force willing to sample his opponent's power in exchange for delivering thunderous blows. A 30-0 fighter at 28 years old looking to stand as the best fighter of his generation.
You took away all of that from him fighting a guy who's just 11-0?
I'm excited to keep putting on great fights, filling arenas, calling out the best guys, Benavidez said in his post-fight news conference. I've evolved as a fighter. I'm becoming my own character. I'll be the face of boxing soon, taking over the sport. Phoenix's Benavidez convincingly defeated Morrell, 11-1 now with 9 KOs, by scores of 115-111 and 118-108. He outlanded Morrell in total punches 224 to 165, while emphasizing his triumph by landing 74 body punches to Morrell's 35. In the end, Morrell, 27, and his handlers conceded. The Cuban fighter with more than 100 amateur bouts lacked the professional experience to keep up with the former super middleweight champion known as the Mexican Monster.
If there was a monster in the ring yesterday, I must have missed him.
David Benavidez now has a ringside invitation awaiting him in Saudi to watch the undisputed light heavyweight title fight between the two real guys, the two best guys at this weight, Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol. As the unified WBC interim and WBA secondary light heavyweight champion, Benavidez has the right to force the Beterbiev versus Bivol winner to fight him next.
But do you get the sense he's gonna exercise it?
Instead of making it another Riyadh season show, however, Benavidez told Boxing Scene he'd prefer to bring the fight to Vegas. I feel like it'd sell more here, Benavidez said. They asked would I fight over there in Saudi.
We touched on this in my previous video.
If what you want is for that fight to be in America instead of Saudi, then you've got to put up an offer, and it's as simple as that. And if by some chance the offer you put up is not to their liking, whether it's Artur who wins or Dimitri, this goes to a purse bid.
If this is what you want, and you want it here in America, it goes to a purse bid, and then it's going to be PBC versus Turkey LL Sheik. Who do you think has the bigger war chest?
I'm a Las Vegas fighter, and I would rather fight here. I want to take advantage of this market here. It's always been my dream to do what we did tonight. That fight would be even bigger here.
If that's what you really believe, then you have to pay to play. You have to pay like it's bigger here.
Now, I'm just entertaining this scenario. I don't actually believe David wants that fight, and I don't think they're going to try to make it.
No.
But just taking his post-fight comments at face value, if that's what you truly believe, that a fight with you and that guy is bigger in America, then your people have to pay to play. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, you don't want it.
He don't want it.
Elevating to this position of demanding such terms comes on the heels of his third consecutive pay-per-view bout in America, as Benavidez is ascending to rarefied air among the world's most popular boxers and says he belongs anywhere from number 9 to number 6 in the pound-for-pound rankings.
For beating a guy with 11 fights.
Yeah, right. And we're not even talking about a seasoned guy, an experienced guy at light heavyweight. David Morrell has had all of one fight as a light heavyweight. All he was a super middleweight moving up in weight just like you. That gets you on the pound for pound?
Not mine.
After being repeatedly avoided by former undisputed super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez, Benavidez has moved to turn the tables and make himself the pursuer of the most formidable opponents. Although Alvarez's trainer and manager, Eddie Reynoso, was in the arena Saturday night, Benavidez said, "You guys know better than me whether Alvarez will ever fight me. Canelo's on to other things." He says, "I talk too mean."
Benavidez said,
By taking on Morrell, he met an accomplished, powerful left-hander who made Saturday's event a compelling battle.
accomplished. What has David Morrell accomplished in 11 fights?
What has David Morrell accomplished as a light heavyweight? Did I miss it? Am I missing something?
That's just Lance blowing smoke up everybody's ass again.
I should have looked for the body more, but he was heavier, David Morrell said. We prepared well. It didn't go like what we expected. The only thing to do is learn from it and move on. Knowing what Morrell's best shots felt like freed Benavidez to unleash a consistent attack from the middle rounds on, widening his lead. I know how to work a 12-round fight. He hit harder than anyone I faced, but I hit harder. I showed what level I'm on, Benavidez said.
Congratulations, you can beat a Cuban with only 11 fights.
Canelo Alvarez will remain a marketing tool for David Benavidez throughout, even after he moves up to cruiserweight for a Zurdo Ramirez fight, which is what I'm expecting. They're still going to bring up Canelo. They're still going to mention him.
David Benavidez already said that he doesn't want to go to Saudi. So you rather just stay in America, doing the rounds on a podcast, talking about the same thing.
Pretty much, that's what he's going to do. I anticipate that even after he moves up to cruiserweight, they're still going to bring up Canelo.
The biggest part of selling a David Benavidez fight is bringing up Canelo.
What I saw yesterday, I would not pick David Benavidez to beat either Dimitri Bivol or Artur Beterbiev. The same holes, the same gaps in his combinations are still there. David Morrell was not experienced enough to fully capitalize, to fully exploit it, but Dimitri would be, and Artur would be.
Even now with 37 going on 38 years old, I'm 100% confident that Artur Beterbiev would steamroll David Benavidez, because not only is he a harder puncher than David, and there are many who account for that.
Guys who have sparred them both and fought them both, and they'll all tell you, Artur's a way bigger puncher than David Benavidez. His power is out of this world.
But it's not just power. Artur is, in fact, a more well-schooled boxer than David Benavidez.
But don't tell the content creators that rely on talking about David for their metrics.
He's a lot more popular online than he is in the digital world, where you actually have to spend money to see him.
Don't tell them that Artur Beterbiev is a better and more compact puncher, simultaneously more impactful within close quarters than David Benavidez. His hooks are tighter and his punches are shorter than David's, which makes him harder to counter than David, as opposed to David, who swings pretty wide, big holes in between. That's why he got clipped the way he did in the 4th round, and why he got dropped later on in the fight.
Some debates as to whether or not that was a legitimate knockdown, or did their feet get tangled up. It's not any better if they did. All that accents is David's piss-poor footwork.
Yeah, I think Artur Beterbiev's got much better footwork, much better movement than David Benavidez when closing the distance. He's a more educated pressure fighter than David, and within close quarters, I would definitely give Artur Beterbiev the advantage.
He's not just going to put the earmuffs on and hide behind them like David Morrell, letting you string together 4 and 5 and 6 punch combinations.
Don't forget, David Morrell was able to catch him, able to clip him in the 4th round in the exchange. If David Morrell can do that, Artur Beterbiev can do that, except he hits a lot harder than David Morrell. You don't let this guy catch in between the punches.
Hits harder than David Morrell, hits harder than David Benavidez, who's gone a distance with Caleb Plant, gone a distance with David Morrell.
He didn't knock them out.
Gone a distance with Oleksandr Vajdik.
He didn't knock him out, but you know who did? Artur Beterbiev. That's who.
He did.
No evidence to suggest that David Benavidez's punching power is on par with Artur's. In fact, there's more evidence to the contrary, and witness testimony, first-hand testimony.
From those who have sampled both men's power.
Whew. So David Benavidez, listen, I like David, but let's come back down to reality. David looks good against small guys. He fight Artur, he's gonna get knocked out. It won't go past 3. Cause I'm gonna tell you why. Cause David's not used to fighting anybody who hit that hard and that big and physically an animal. David is not physically strong at all. Artur, he gonna have to deal with Artur being physically strong.
What? You saying David's not strong?
He's not physically strong. When I sparred, he wasn't physically strong. Like, and David don't punch hard. He just put a lot of punches together. He overwhelmed me. And then it looked like he punched hard because he fighting blown up 54-pounders. And I'm not hating. I'm just telling you facts.
I ain't get punched by neither one.
These is facts. When Arthur hit him with them little gloves on, because David only defense is this. With Arthur, boom, boom, we go, woo, we gonna be like, okay.
I think Dimitri outclasses him too. I think Dimitri Bivol would thoroughly beat David Benavidez, take him to school the same way he did Zurdo. He beat him just in a different way. David punches very wide and his feet aren't very good.
I think he'd miss a lot of punches with Dimitri, which would wear on David Benavidez's energy reserves. For those not aware, you burn twice as much energy with punches that don't land, punches that miss, than punches that connect. And I think he'd miss a lot of punches with Dimitri.
In a fight that would likely have a similar aesthetic to the Zurdo Ramirez fight, with the difference being that David Benavidez is a bit faster than Zurdo within close quarters, though getting there would be the hard part.
Dimitri would make him miss and make him pay. The counter, he'd work off the counter, mid-range to inside.
On his toes, using that pendulum step to bounce out of range as David advances to get on the outside. Counter him,
then move.
Not too worried about David Benavidez's volume or power. If Dimitri Bivol was able to go the distance with Artur Beterbiev, who's a bigger puncher than David, and we've established that. If he could go the distance with him and take his power for 12, he can take David's, and that's if David even lands.
I don't think he would.
None of this really matters because of what I told you. I don't expect David to fight the winner of that fight. I don't expect David to fight the loser of that fight. I don't even expect David to stay at this weight after this. I'm expecting that his very next fight could be up there at cruiserweight. And even if it isn't, it won't be against either of these two guys.
No.
He fancies himself a Vegas fighter, Mr. Big in the Britches, and too much about him relies on constantly name-dropping Canelo Alvarez, who I've no doubts he's still going to continually bring up wherever he fights, wherever he goes. He'd rather just keep doing the same thing. It was never about undisputed.
Think Canelo beats him.
I still do. I didn't see a different fighter yesterday. I saw the same guy I've always seen. Same ordinary fighter, same basic plotter.
Who's walking on quicksand and swings pretty wide.
Now, I don't think David Benavidez is actually better than Canelo Alvarez within close quarters. That proximity actually favors the smaller fighter with the shorter arms because it's easier for them to string together punches there. The only caveat is that Canelo is older.
But it's not like David Benavidez is a guy you have to chase around the ring. He isn't. He's gonna come to you.
And if you're Canelo working off the counter, you're gonna get all the countering opportunities you need from David, who likes to play guys close to the chest, letting go of uppercuts, hooks.
What can be countered, Canelo Alvarez characteristically likes to take the mid-rounds off. That's a danger zone.
And I don't think he's gassing out when he does it so much as pacing himself to save something for later, for the closing rounds.
Benavidez fans are gonna say you've got more faith in Canelo than he has in himself, since he hasn't fought David. But that's tantamount to saying that because Floyd didn't fight Amir Khan, he was scared of Khan, or he was scared of Thurman.
See how stupid that sounds?
That logic?
Yeah, I would still go with Canelo Alvarez to beat David Benavidez. I don't think Canelo knocks him out, though. I think he beats him on points.
I do think he would knock him down, though.
I mean, if Ronald Gavril was able to knock him down, and David Morrell was able to knock him down, and Canelo's good for a knockdown, at least one in a fight.
I think Canelo beats him.